Counting expansions and titles currently in development, there are almost 100 games born under the Star Wars banner. The films, comics, and novels that forced the narrative to continue constantly dreamt up new planets and new problems for new heroes to overcome, and the games had to follow suit. We've seen arcade ports, movie translations, flight sims for the console and PC, war mods, battle shooters, Jedi platformers, single-player RPGs, and massive multi-character communities. And then, there are these games. In this final episode of our Star Wars retrospective, we're going to load up all the genre crossovers that stood by themselves, the guilty favorites that line the outer rim of LucasArts' output. We'll also look at the franchise catalog and the endless scroll of creative talent that's let us play in the galaxy for the last 30 years. Software Toolworks, who published the best-selling Chessmaster in 1986, brought the Galactic War to the digital chessboard in 1994 for the PC and Sega CD. Similar to Interplay's Battle Chess, each time a piece was taken, the conflict was acted out in an animated vignette. The multitudes of encounters warranted several sacrifice moves just to see Vader melt R2-D2 or C-3PO outstumble an Imperial Walker. As an alternative to Hearts or Solitaire, Yoda Stories was released for Windows in 1997. Taking place after The Empire Strikes Back, the desktop adventure followed Luke as he left his master's side on Dagobah and explored the galaxy for any item an NPC would be willing to trade. The missions claimed to send Skywalker to different planets, but only 4 different surfaces were accessible: desert, forest, snow, and the moon. The grid of map screens was randomly generated each level, stretching the Jedi journey into infinity. A Game Boy version of Yoda Stories materialized in 1999, a year after the console went color. A lot of the detail was wiped out and the level cap was cut off at 15. Despite barely clinging to the canon, Yoda Stories had a bounty of cameos from Han Solo, Chewbacca, Princess Leia, C-3PO, Boba Fett, Darth Vader, Jabba the Hutt, and even a very confused Indiana Jones. The archaeologist had already got his own desktop adventure in 1996. Months before she investigated the mysteries of the Sith to save her partner Kyle Katarn, Mara Jade guest starred in the first, and only, Star Wars fighting game. Masters of Teras for the PlayStation 1 inspired the rare one-on-one pairing of several Star Wars nobles thanks to a revenge plot by the Emperor, following the destruction of the first Death Star. Palpatine hired Arden Lin, an expert of an ancient fighting style known as Teras Finnish for Steel Hand, to eliminate key members of the Rebel Alliance. The martial art was invented by Shadows of the Empire author Steve Perry. Luke, Vader, Han, Leia, Chewbacca, and Boba Fett were all drawn into the competitive fray, along with a stormtrooper, a Tusken Raider named Hor, and the Gamorrean guard Thok. Other unlockable faces included Boba Fett body double Jodo Kast and Leia in an indestructible bikini. Despite being the only Star Wars fighting game, most fans avoided it at all costs. The movement was clunky, the characters were imbalanced, and the combat failed to reach the complexity of 3D brawlers like Tekken or weapons-based fighters like Battle Arena Toshinden.
Nice try.
Tiger Electronics blew out gamers' corneas with the R-Zone in 1996, and 4 Star Wars games were released for it a year later. Imperial Assault, Jedi Adventure, Millennium Falcon Challenge, and Rebel Forces couldn't help the portable device grow in popularity or sales, thanks in large part to the fact that you could view the games in any color you wanted as long as it was red. More than half of the handheld's library consisted of licensed movie games. As the 90s wore on, the excitement of Special Edition gave way to rumors of the prequel trilogy. At the same time consoles were being assaulted with Episode 1 titles, PC younglings were being exposed to Lucas marketing at the earliest possible age. 8 puzzle-based activity games from Lucas Learning arrived on the PC in 1999, foretelling the likelihood that kids would appreciate the first chapter of the new trilogy more than their parents. Early Learning, recommended for Padawans ages 4 through 6, celebrated the new era of peace on the planet of Naboo by making music, playing with puppets, disco dancing with Jar Jar, and carnival dunking Boss Nass. Yoda's Challenge offered some leisurely escapades presented by a Simpsons-looking Jedi Master. Kiddies could build Anakin's songbook, programmed C-3PO's storytelling library, or unscramble the computer on the Queen's ship. The Gungan Frontier played like a cross between Harvest Moon and Pokémon, with you exploring the various flora and fauna that flourished in the forests and plains on Naboo, when the Trade Federation wasn't running them over. DroidWorks took the less synthetic approach, allowing users to construct helping hands and vehicles to tackle challenges of modest difficulty. The Mos Espa pod race inspired both Pit Droids and Anakin Speedway, where every puzzle could be solved with a little elbow grease and the right power coupling. Speedway let you reform 3 planet tracks, and Pit Droids had a chain of Lemming-inspired brain teasers. Star Wars math was as simple or difficult as it sounds depending on your proficiency, and surprisingly, Jar Jar's Journey sold the worst out of the 8 original titles. Only 5 of them are still available on the official Lucas Learning site, and no other games by the publisher were released following Episode 1. As we left the 20th century behind, it was difficult to find a genre that hadn't been populated by clone troopers or snowspeeders. One that wasn't forced on players yet was car combat, made popular by Twisted Metal in 1995. Luxoflux developed the Twisted Metal rival Vigilante 8 and its sequel, and LucasArts commissioned them to make a hit-and-run contest to match the robust fleet of the Star Wars galaxy. Star Wars Demolition was released in November 2000 for the PlayStation and Dreamcast. Demolition cited the Empire's canceling of all pod racing as an open invitation for Jabba the Hutt to create another method of homicidal entertainment. 13 racers signed up to win their prize of choice, including Boba Fett, Lobot, Leia, and Darth Maul. Altogether, a Landspeeder, AAT, ATST, Staff, Snowspeeder, Jetpack, Pod Racer, Rancor, Cloud Car, and Sith Speeder took to the battlegrounds, each with their own arsenal of attacks. Instead of lives, players had credits they could gain or lose by attacking enemies or receiving damage. It was a derivative game that offered very little beyond the Star Wars license. Looking to sell a Star Wars gaming experience that didn't have to involve lightsabers or force pushing, Ubisoft developed and published Star Wars Lethal Alliance in 2006 for the PSP and DS. As Twi'lek slave Rhianna Saren and her robot companion Zio, handheld gamers could absorb several brand new made-up moments that transpired just before A New Hope. In search of her former master Zarian Keeve, the rebel mercenary took orders from Kyle Katarn and Princess Leia, got shot down by Boba Fett, and retrieved the Death Star plans, even though that feat had been accomplished several times already. Not every Star Wars game required a console to play. In fact, some were consoles in themselves. Hasbro, Jax, and Tiger Electronics all released plug-and-play games based on the new and old trilogy. The ones that featured a controller shaped like R2-D2 or the Millennium Falcon packed in 4 or 5 games for the price of 1 unit. The Clone Wars model came with a laser rifle, and the lightsaber battle version wrecked many a lamp by forcing kids to flail their arms about just like a Jedi Knight. These interactive toys proved you still only need a couple of sprites and sound effects to classify yourself as a Star Wars game, and wind up on holiday gift lists around the world.
This coming battle may prove Vader's intent. I secretly hope he will betray us.
Mission accomplished, General Riker.
Well done, Wedge.
Rendezvous with the fleet at the Outer Rim.
With the exception of Jake Lloyd, Dennis Lawson, and Billy D. Williams, the characters central to the video game story of Star Wars are never re-recorded by their original actors. A long time ago, when Star Wars gaming began, developers were lucky if their music choices were recognizable. Now, original scores are composed for almost every game, and legions of actors are called upon to recreate infamous voices, or introduce gamers to new faces.
This is an unfortunate setback. The Force is strong with Katarn.
The first person to revoice Darth Vader in a video game was Scott Lawrence for Dark Forces in 1994. You might have recognized him in Time Cop, Turbulence, or the recent Cloverfield. He went on to portray the Dark Lord 12 more times. Matt Lucas commonly played his alter ego, Anakin Skywalker, in the prequel games and the Cartoon Network series. Both Terrence Carson and Kevin Michael Richardson replaced Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu. Richardson was also Boss Nass in Galactic Battlegrounds and Joe Lee Bindo in Knights of the Old Republic. Carson was Vader for Galactic Battlegrounds and has always delivered the rasping cries of Kratos from the God of War series.
And are you ready then to face me?
I am.
5 people have played Kyle Katarn, though most gamers familiarized themselves with the face of Jason Court and the voice of Jeff Bennett, who also embodied Brent Tantor in Force Commander and Jango Fett in Galactic Battlegrounds. Nick Jameson originally spoke for the Rebel Mercenary in Dark Forces, Reno Romano stepped in for Mysteries of the Sith, and Brian Boschel supplied the voice for his brief cameo in Empire at War.
Letting you kill him is against our Jedi beliefs. I won't allow it.
Many actors from the recently animated side of Star Wars carried their talent over to other interactive interpretations of their characters. James Arnold Taylor portrayed Obi-Wan in the Genndy Tartakovsky shorts and the recent feature film, along with Battlefront 2 and the Episode 3 game. Scott Cleaverden was heard as the young Obi-Wan in Episode 1 and Power Battles, and Lewis MacLeod brought a very heavy Scottish drawl to the role in Bombad Racing Battlegrounds and the Young Jedi's self-titled game.
We did it! We saved Mos Eisley! Nice work, Rogue Squadron! We might make a name for ourselves after all.
The modern voice of Porky Pig, Bob Bergen, has moonlighted as Luke Skywalker in almost a dozen games. Several actors have played Han Solo, the most notable being Neil Ross, who is also Colonel Volgan in Metal Gear Solid 3. Tom Kane, who impersonated Anthony Daniels for Empire at War and the Robot Chicken special, has played Master Yoda 11 times, including Soul Calibur 4, along with vocalizing his 2 animated personas.
No, my destiny this is not.
Whose destiny is it then?
Yours.
It's fascinating that, as the years wear on, the characters fans hold so close to their hearts have to be reimagined so often. Players have to wonder if they enjoy a performance so much because it reminds them of the original actor, or if it's forged a persona of its own. Just as we've had to accept multiple performers carrying the mantle of the pivotal 6-film heroes, games give the characters a chance to live forever. Who knows what Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader will sound like tomorrow? At the time of this video's release, there are 4 anticipated Star Wars games that have yet to appear on store shelves. The Clone Wars, released exclusively in theaters on August 15, 2008, has 2 video game tie-ins. The DS version is called Jedi Alliance and is being developed at the LucasArts studio in Singapore. Similar to The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass and Ninja Gaiden, movement and combat is controlled with the stylus, and several mini-games round out the package. Ever since the Nintendo Wii, and more specifically its motion controller, was released in 2006, students of the Force have dreamt of a one-to-one lightsaber experience. Lightsaber Duel is claiming to be up to the challenge, simulating the versatility of the laser sword during an era brimming with expert candidates to train against. In March of 2006, BioWare, creator of Mass Effect and Knights of the Old Republic, announced it was developing an unnamed, massively multiplayer role-playing game. In 2008, EA purchased BioWare and Pandemic Studios and revealed the online project was being produced in conjunction with LucasArts. Despite the Old Republic being the obvious choice and CEO John Riccitiello subtly verifying its authenticity, no teaser, website, or press release has confirmed a KOTOR MMO. And then, there's Vader's Apprentice. Powered by the Stormtrooper-clinging Euphoria engine built using digital molecular matter and set free with Havoc physics, the first original Star Wars game of the current generation seeks to shock gamers with its controversial story as much as its earth-shattering tech. Personally approved by George Lucas, the story stands as official documentation of an era filled with doubt and confusion. X-Wing, Force Commander, Dark Forces, Empire at War, and Lethal Alliance have already made footprints in the 19-year span between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. During these shadowy decades, the Death Star neared completion, the Rebels formed their alliance, and the children of Anakin Skywalker grew up unaware of their destiny. Starkiller, otherwise known as Galen Marek, has never been mentioned by name in any Imperial Order or Alliance record, yet his power exceeds that of his Dark Lord Master and Vader's unassuming heir. Until the truth is unleashed, the Apprentice's future and the old trilogy's past both remain a mystery. When it comes to licensed media, Star Wars rules the galaxy. Whether they dig up prehistoric beginnings, expose the uncredited champions in and between the feature films, or enter an expanded conflict that appears to have no end, video games are Lucas's greatest ally. Not only do they keep the story pages turning, they put the future of Star Wars into the hands of those that deserve the legacy, its fans. Star Wars made us dare to believe that a whiny farm boy could find the courage to topple an empire. A 900-year-old swamp dweller could hold the secrets to the cosmos, and the heir to the galaxy could reject his darkest side, even if it was the only thing keeping him alive. In this universe, anything is possible. Space will forever pique our imaginations, and like the Force, Star Wars video games will always be with us.